So the F-16I SUFA, guys, it got leaked today by Mike, and let's talk a little bit about what should you expect from this aircraft in War Thunder. So the first thing that we need to talk about is that it's the evolution of an F-16D, right? But it is based off of the Block 52, so it will be a little bit different than the D model. Externally, guys, the main feature that can identify if it's a D model or the I SUFA is the two blisters that he has on the nose, because of course he has the addition of CFTs as well on top of the fuselage, but of course you cannot use them, so SUFAs cannot, they can or not use them if the crew, mission, pilot, whatever needs, right? So yeah, this is the main difference, on externally, you see those two blisters, it's a SUFA. But of course, if you see the CFTs, you will know that it's a SUFA as well. It's just that sometimes they don't use it, okay? Externally, it will be like that. That's the main difference. Internally is where everything changes. So most of the avionics and electronic, countermeasure systems and all sorts of stuff is made by the Israelis, right? So it's more of an internal building of, in the terms of domestic building of the Israelis of the F-16I SUFA. So of an F-16, if you will, right? So you will see in real life a lot of these systems just being Israeli made. That's going to be one of the main features of this vehicle, right? But for in-game purposes, internally, it will have some changes as well. First of all, of course, it would still use the HMD that the D model has. It would still have a somewhat similar performance, weight, and everything, depending if you are using the CFT or not, of course. But then we have something like the Raider. The Raider is one of the most advanced versions of the APG-68, which is the V9 version. Funny enough, this thing was actually leaked a while back by data miners that it was already there, so we kind of already knew that at a certain point the SUFA would come, right? The Raider of it was already there in the game. So yeah, the V9 APG-68 will have better air-to-ground modes, better range, better processing systems, and everything with that. It is still not an AESA, but it is, as close as modern radars go before going to electronic scanner array in a normal, mechanically scanned array radar. So the APG-68 is there, much better radar. So internally, guys, one of the main changes that you will see in the game is not only the radar, but the engine, right? The engine is the same as it is used on the F-15I RAM, right? It is the same engine of the F-15E. So it's a Pratt & Whitney engine instead of the GE General Electric engine, right? Of course, because it is based off of Block 52 F-16, not the Block 50, right? So you will see a lot of differences in the engine output because of that. Take it, this that I'm about to tell you guys, with a little bit of salt, just because aerodynamic differences in the intake of the engine of the F-15 and the F-16 will create differences in power output, okay? So this is just for you to have an idea and not an actual power output that the SUFA will have. But you can see that a little bit of the difference here. So you can see that, of course, the F-15 produces, it has two engines, right? So you produce a lot more. But if you take this amount on the maximum thrust that it produces, which is around 345 kilonewtons of thrust, and you divide it by 2, have the power output of each engine, it will be around 172 kilonewtons, or around 17,280 kilogram force. A little bit more than the 16,421 of the F-16C Block 50, right? Again, aerodynamic changes on the intake will differentiate the amount of thrust that these engines produce. But if we take into account that normally it's not that big of a difference, you will see probably the SUFA producing a little bit more power than the Block 50. I might be completely wrong, but it has a tendency of doing that. Let's wait and see how it is going to be, especially in the higher outputs. In the lower outputs, it will be pretty much the same, or even with the GE winning at a certain point. But in an overall, change over here, I think, in the higher, very high speeds, above 1,300 kilometers per hour, above 1,200, the F-16I SUFA will produce a little bit more thrust, okay? So this is the difference in engine output. And then we have to talk about the weapon systems. The weapons are going to be arguably very similar, if not the same as the D model. So the thing is that I don't understand what they are planning with this, okay? Because, of course, it will still use the Vulcan cannon, But what about other missiles and stuff? If we take a look here on the D model, you will notice that every single weapon that you can see right now in the SUFA, it is already here. So, of course, the SUFA can take not only a normal derby, but it can take the derby ER. It can take not only an AIM-9M, but it can take an AIM-9X. It can take Python 4s and 5s, right? Yes, it can, but it will probably not see those. We're probably not going to see these missiles coming, okay? So what can you expect from the SUFA on the weapons department? Well, to be honest, guys, they already deny it. We will not see the next generation of missiles right now. So what I expect is the addition of the AIM-120C5 for this thing, AIM-9M, that's going to be the top missiles, the Derby that you can use, hopefully a Derby ER if they want to have a little bit of a different flavor here, but even then it's not going to be game breaking, you know. And then for air to ground, it's going to be pretty much the same, guys. So non-guided stuff like the Mark 80 series of bombs, you know, 117s even, Mark 84s, Mark 83s, all sorts of these bombs, high drag ones, of course, as well, and obviously guided ones like the GBU-12, like the GBU-16, like the Spice bombs. They will always be here. The GBU-10, of course, a Lightning II pod is here. Maybe they can add the Lightning III, because the SUFA could actually use that, improving a little bit of the pod here, the thermal ability and everything, right? Of course, GBU-15s, GBU-39s, maybe a Maverick, I don't know, something like that. But at the end of the day, guys, most of the weapons are here. Unless they add different missiles, like, for example, the Lila or the... there are cruise missiles out there, TV-guided stuff. The Israelis can use basically everything on the SUFA. Everything, that the Israelis have can be used on the SUFA. So, but at the end of the day, right now, for the in-game purposes, it will be the same as we have here, maybe with a new pod, a new radar, and a new engine, and better missiles, air-to-air missiles. But apart from that, don't expect anything too different from the D model. What I honestly think that it is basically a preparation for the future, because the D model, I mean, technically can, but it probably will never, because of BR and stuff, have the best derbies, the best AIM-9s, the best Pythons. It will probably never come to the F-16D. So they probably will just have a preparation that right now the SUFA will be there, maybe a 14.0 or 13.7. And then in the future, it will have all of these bombs and missiles and everything, like the Derby ER, like the Python 4 or 5 in the future, so that it can actually be a top-tier vehicle, okay? So this is what I think is going to be happening. Is it actually? I don't know. At the end of the day, guys, it is still going to be a heavier F-16, that although maybe it will produce a little bit more thrust in the higher speeds, but at the end of the day, it will still be heavier. So in a dogfight, it will still lose out to most, single-placed F-16s, because it's not made to be, better than those, of course. But it's still going to be amazing in BVR and amazing in air-to-ground. But don't expect this thing to be amazing in a dogfight, meaning that the aircraft will not be the best vehicle in the game. But it is going to be there, and it's a preparation for the future for Python 4s, Python 5s. Even though the D model could already take some of these, but you get the point, right? Because of BR and stuff. And of course, maybe in the future the F-35 as well, right? So we needed this aircraft to complete the Israeli Tech 3 for the future, but at the same time, don't expect anything too different from what you see in the D model, okay? Basically, this is it. Let me know in the comments what you think about the F-16I SUFA, and I see you guys on the next one. Make sure to subscribe, and bye.